Hi, welcome to Biblio Files, the AADL TV program, where we meet each week to briefly discuss one book topic. I'm Lucy, and I'm here with Christopher and Amanda, as usual. And today, the topic that we are going to discuss is, what is your favorite classic book? And this is sort of a tough one because it's really up to you, I think, to define what your favorite classic is. There are many different reasons why you might consider something a classic. So I'm very interested to hear what you guys have picked. So Amanda, what did you choose for your favorite classic?
This week for my favorite classic, I chose the book The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. And this is an old copy. This is not the copy that I originally read. Growing up in the 80s as a small child, I watched the movie a lot. I don't know why in the 80s we were exposed to all of these movies that were cool for, 7-year-olds to watch or whatever, but so I watched the Outsiders many times. And then when I was in the 8th grade in the late 80s, it was one of the assignments in 8th grade was to read The Outsiders. And I loved the book. I just was so in love with those characters. And that was also around the same time that there was a new television TV show series version based on the book. So I was completely immersed in it. And it's just a timeless book, and kids are still reading it. My niece is 13, and she just got an assignment that she was reading it, and I was so excited for her. But The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton, it's from 1967. She was in high school when she wrote it. It is a coming-of-age novel. There are 3 brothers, Soda Pop, Ponyboy, and Daryl, and they are living on their own. And then there's a ragtag group of all of their friends. They are known as the Greasers. Then on the other side of the tracks, you have the group of high school kids known as the Socias. So it's a very interesting book on these variety of characters. The movie is also amazing, the original Francis Ford Coppola one. But for me, it was totally a classic. Kids are still assigned to read it. I was assigned to read it. I just think it's an amazing, fun book. And digging out this copy from my shelf to talk about it today, I was like, why have I not reread this book in a very long time? So I might just have to reread it soon. So that's what I picked, The Outsiders. Christopher, what did you pick? You're being blinded.
I am a little bit blinded right now, but I have to go with another Dostoevsky story. I know I talked about Dostoevsky last week, but this is the first copy of the Brothers Karamazov that I read, and I've read it several times, different translations, and I think because I've read it so many times, and I go back to the same characters, it really is so familiar and so much fun. Not only do I revisit the story every time I read it, but I revisit other times in my life and places. So a very good friend of mine turned me on to the book a long, long time ago, and I often think of him when I'm reading the book as well. Chapters are super short, even though it's considered one of those long, old classics. So things do move along really quickly. It tells the story of these brothers, and each brother has a very different personality, and Dostoevsky is exploring different ways to live, essentially, in the world. And it's a great story. I don't know if either of you have ever read Brothers Karamazov. So it's a lot of fun. And I'll just leave it at that. All right, Lucy?
I would like to read it. It's been on my list to read, just the Brothers Karamazov. And Amanda, The Outsiders is like one of my favorite books. So I loved hearing you talk about that. And the movie, like you, I was like immersed in those worlds when I was younger. So I was a little jealous of your pick there for a second. But what I picked is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. And this is actually not even my first copy, because I read my first copy so much that it got pretty beat up. I read it first in high school, like it was assigned to me in high school. And then I read it on my own after that. And then I read it again a few times in college, and I've read it a couple times since then. And this is just a story that I love. It's a story of a Black woman. It was written in 1937, so Zora Neale Hurston's considered part of the Harlem Renaissance, but she was actually, unusually for that time, writing about Black people in the South, whereas the Harlem Renaissance was mostly in the North. So that was unusual there. And this book is written in 1937, but I feel like, and maybe this is why I feel it's a classic, because I can pick it up and I can find things in it still when I'm reading it. Today, it's the story of Janie Crawford, who is a woman who gets married 3 times over the course of this book, which was also unusual that in that time, because Hurston was writing this strong female character who felt that she was worthy of love, and so she was going to keep seeking that for herself, and to present that kind of female character, especially a Black female character like that at that time, was really unusual. This book, like many classics, when it was published, didn't do very well. It had a resurgence later, I think, when Alice Walker kind of read it and then talked about it a lot. So I could just go on and on about how much I love this book, but I think it's brave and it's interesting, and it's a good love story, even if all the things don't work out perfectly. So that is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. And we would love to hear from you, our viewers, on any classics that you enjoy, and what do you even consider to be a classic book? Why is your favorite classic? So you can leave us comments below, and we will see you next week when we discuss the book that we just have to talk about with someone. So that should be pretty exciting. Thanks.